Hi, I'm Mr. Baker, and this is the second part of our Unit 4 on cellular respiration. Learning goals: you need to know what goes in and what comes out, the reactants and the products, where the phases occur. You should know the difference between aerobic and anaerobic, the various players in each phase, how much ATP is regenerated for each phase and the total, and what ATP synthase and chemiosmosis is. We're going to talk about the electron transport system. It occurs in the mitochondrial inner membrane, and we're going to move two different things in two different directions. Electrons are going to move across, left to right, and protons are going to move up and out. You should watch this video, but we don't have time for it here. There's a nice table here showing us the difference of what's going on between the electron transport system, which occurs in the inner membrane. It is considered aerobic. What enters? Well, electrons enter. 10 electrons enter from 10 NADHs and 2 fat H2s, and we need some oxygen that you inhale. What exits is H2O, water, and we're going to produce an H plus or proton gradient. The net ATP from all of this is eventually going to be 34, and our total for the three parts is going to be 38 under ideal conditions. In real life, though, it's only 30 to 32. Chemiosmosis is the end game, and this is how you recharge ATP. Where does it occur? Also in the inner membrane next to the electron transport system. ATP synthase, which we're going to call a battery charger, is a big player. And that H plus gradient, what you do is you're going to bring protons back through, you're going to crank them, and then you can recharge ATP. There's a nice little GIF for you. The electron transport system is a series of 5 proteins going from left to right. ATP synthase is the molecule that uses the H plus to recharge ATP. It's the battery charger, and it's the big green thing on the bottom right. It's responsible for the process of chemiosmosis. The electron transport system, you're going to have NAD and FAD bringing electrons. They're going to, when they dump the electrons in, they're going to move the electrons across or from left to right, as you see it in pictures. And you're going to kick protons across. And then you're going to have some oxygen waiting, and it's going to take those electrons away, and through some chemistry magic become water. There's a picture, left to right. Protons go up and out. Chemiosmosis is the process of charging the batteries being ATP. ATP is fully charged, ADP is partially charged, and we've talked about those in the past. There's a video that you'll need to find on your own. Chemiosmosis is when you got protons, you're going to release during the electron transport system. And again, you're going to use that battery charger. When the protons want to come back across, you'll crank the battery charger, and that will help recharge 1 ATP. And you've got to crank that ATP synthase 3 times. Again, chemiosmosis, charging the batteries. The battery charger is ATP synthase. When you do this together, you can produce 38 ATP total for all 3 phases under ideal conditions. However, in real life, it's about 30 to 32. There's a picture trying to tie it all together. It's a 3-step process. Glucose plus oxygen that you breathe in, you're going to dump into glycolysis, which is then going to go to the Krebs cycle, which is then going to go to the electron transport system. You're going to exhale some carbon dioxide, you're going to make some water, and you're going to make a total of, under ideal conditions, 38 ATP. So here's a summary. Glycolysis is anaerobic. There's what you're going to put in. It occurs in the cytoplasm. And then we move to the Krebs cycle, which is considered aerobic. It relies on the electron transport system. You do some chemistry magic, you get all of those products. It occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. The electron transport system is aerobic. You're going to take those electrons and set up a gradient. And then you're going to produce ATP doing the process called chemiosmosis, which is the battery charging, and that occurs in the mitochondrial inner membrane. Total profit, 38. Here's a chart. You will have a quiz on this that ties up everything. And again, I want you to know the phase, where it occurs, if it's anaerobic or aerobic, what enters, what exits, and our net production of ATP. And there's your quiz notice. We have one more thing to talk, and that's fermentation. Fermentation is something that occurs without oxygen. When when you don't have enough oxygen being delivered, or if you're a bacteria in an unoxygenated environment. It's going to occur in the cytoplasm. It's anaerobic. It's going to occur when no oxygen is available. Some organisms can only do this because they don't have the enzymes for Krebs or the electron transport system. You can make ATP very quickly, but you cannot sustain it. There are two main types: lactic acid fermentation and alcohol fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation you do, because if you've ever worked out and felt the burn in your muscles, that's the acid in your muscles. Glycolysis is going to occur as normal, and this lactic acid is a byproduct. And what you're going to do is that pyruvate is going to get converted into lactic acid with some chemistry magic as far as we're concerned. Some organisms do this, and we utilize them to produce food for us, like cheese, sour cream, and yogurt. All of those have a slightly sour taste because of the lactic acid. Acid tastes sour. Alcohol fermentation occurs in yeast and some bacteria. You're going to do a normal glycolysis, and then you're going to take that 3-carbon pyruvate, you're going to convert it into ethyl alcohol and release 1 carbon dioxide. That's why beers are fizzy. And the alcohol fermentation has been used by humans. I think the earliest record may be something like 6,000 years ago. Here's a table that shows you what happens. Step 1, glycolysis. If you have oxygen, then you go to the green. Step 2, Krebs, and step 3, electron transport system. But if you don't have oxygen, then you might go to step 1A or step 1B. 1A will be yeast and bacteria. Step 1B will be most animals as far as we are concerned, and that's lactic acid. Another way to put this into perspective is about how to train your athletes. So there are 2 sports that really give us great examples, hockey and cross country. So let's talk about cross country first. That is aerobic training. It's about 70% of maximum muscle effort at any one time. Compare that with 100% maximum muscle effort, which is a sprint. Cross-country runners got to run 15-16 minutes to be very competitive in a high school level. How fast can you do this? Well, it's slower, but you can sustain it longer, and there are triathletes and marathon runners that can stay at that 70% max effort for a very long time. You can maintain this until your body can no longer deliver enough oxygen to the muscles. Elite athletes will train to stay aerobic and not shift into the anaerobic, and the sport is cross country. Hockey players, if you're a forward, you're on for 45 seconds and you get about 2.5 minutes to rest. That's because that is a total sprint workout. It's 100% sprint. You're doing maximum muscle effort. You can go faster and work at your maximum muscle capacity, but you're gonna have to rest. You can do this for about 45 seconds, and you need 2.5 to 3 minutes, and you got to pay back what's called the oxygen debt. That's why hockey players are panting after they've been on the ice for their 45 seconds going all out. What's going to happen is then you're going to build up lactic acid and feel the burn. Anything that is a sprint that lasts for 45 seconds or less will be this anaerobic type of training. Hopefully that helps. You should be ready for your quiz, and hope you learned something.